first time I've used that, so it's really good.
All meeting to order. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the March 25th, 2019 meeting be accepted as presented with the addition of the EPTCA information under general business prior to the consideration of the 2019 draft budget. Have somebody move that, please? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, confirmation of minutes. I have that here. Be it resolved that the minutes of the February 19, 2019 regular meeting be hereby approved as circulated. Will you please move it? Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor Soya. Any errors or omissions? Discussion? Not? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the March 5th, 2019 special meeting be hereby approved as circulated. Secretary, please move that. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor McGregor. Errors or omissions? Discussion? All in favor? Carried. General accounts. Be it resolved that March 20th, 2019 general accounts payables being checks number 23558 to 3611 in the amount of $69,858.02 be hereby approved. Secretary, please move that. Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor Soya. Discussion? One thing that there was a note came up, I'm going to just grab this for the sake of everybody knowing. There was an item that was posted on the rural website about accounts, and had to do with the, how was that worded? That the auditors had put in their report that they should only,
The payables should be approved.
by council.
Yeah, well, and looked at.
Yeah. These are available to you all the time. The only thing that was in the auditor's report wasn't about us having it here. It was a matter at that time that the visa statements, we were just approving visa statements. We didn't have the individual receipts. We changed that immediately after that notice, and they are always included. So if you ever want to see it, it's all as part of this approval. You're approving them. I have initialed them. I've gone through every one of them before they come to council. And then checks are issued, but they're approved through you here at this meeting. So if you have any questions at any time, they're available at the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, that was a specific question that we made of the auditor at our very first meeting with the auditor, and they confirmed that there was no issue with the controls in place. So.
Right. I just wanted to make sure. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to give a little pre-amalgamation. We never had electronics, so when you got to the meeting, you had to review all these before the meeting started. So this, to me, it's in front of you. Now we can look at it at home. If you have questions, you can make notes. So I just want to say I think it's a great way we're doing it now. So, and like I say, it is available to anybody.
If you have any questions, these are always here and available to you. And if you want, you can even see them in the office if you want to see something on them prior to the meeting. Anything further on that? If not, all in favor? Be it resolved that the direct deposit 0077 being staff payroll for the period February 11th to 22nd, 2019, in the amount of $10,153.85 be hereby approved. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor Soya. Discussion? All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 0078 being staff payroll for the period February 25th to March 8th, 2019, the amount of $9,803.51 be hereby approved. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor
Can I
Soya.
just stop for a minute? For some reason, my computer is not letting me.
Do it?
That wasn't the utility account.
No.
There we go. There we are. It just wasn't
0078.
catching up to me. And so you had McDonald Soyak?
That's right.
Okay.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that direct deposit 0079 being council indemnity for the month of February 2019 in the amount of $6,455.08 be hereby approved. So moved. Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor McGregor. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that direct deposit 0080 being staff payroll for the period March 11th to March 22nd, 2019, in the amount of $10,958.59 be hereby approved. May you please move that? Councilor McGregor, second. Councilor Hargrave. All in favor? Okay, utility account. Are you there?
Yes.
Be it resolved that March 20th, 2019 utility accounts payables being check number 448 to 461 in the amount of $23,652.48 be hereby approved. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Statement of revenue and expenditures. I should get that page here myself. Okay. Be it resolved that a statement of revenue expenditures report to February 28, 2019 be received as presented. Second by Councilor Hargrave. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Delegations aren't here yet.
No.
That's usually around 9:15.
Well, when we have a public hearing, we have to state a time, a delegation not so much. So I just asked that he could be here for 9 o'clock, but we can go ahead.
We'll go past that then.
Yeah, we could go
So
ahead.
let's
and
go to communications then.
Yes, under communications, we have information from Airscapes International on their Smile and Wave 2019 package. Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba sent us their e-news survey. Association of Manitoba Municipalities sent us out information on their MOS meeting, on the 2019 June district meetings, on the June district elections, the provincial response to the 2018 resolutions, a member advisory from the 2019 provincial budget, a member advisory letting us know that Stu Breeze had passed away. He was a member of the executive on AMM for a number of years. And they also sent out some information on the 2019 federal budget. From the Brandon and Area Planning District, we received zoning amendment information in the RM of Cornwallis. City of Brandon also sent out a zoning amendment application in the RM of Cornwallis. And of course, we received those because we are adjacent to that planning district. Fred Connor sent some information on the recycling program. So if any members of council would like to investigate what he has suggested, we would have to do that by resolution. But for right now, it was some information put forward on perhaps what we could do to be leading edge with recycling.
I wasn't, sorry, can I ask questions?
Sure.
No? I wasn't totally clear on the suggestion. Was it just that you wanted cardboard broken down and then put into the recycling? Was that the issue?
I believe that was the issue, and I believe it was a case of watching to see which bin they were putting it in, that if for any reason it was going into the regular bin versus a recycling bin, that there should be fines associated. That, of course, would require us to include that in a bylaw, and it would mean you'd have to have somebody on site doing a bit closer monitoring. If they're at the gate, they also can't be necessarily seeing where the bins are. Federation of Canadian Municipalities sent us communiques dated February the 19th, 21st, 25th, March 4th, March 11th, March 18th, and March 19th. Glenboro, South Cyprus, Oakland-Wawanesa Handy Transit provided information on their 2019 operating budgets. And I would just note for council that the amount that they are including from this municipality was indicated in the budget that you're looking at. Legacy Bose Group gave some information on management tools. Manitoba Agriculture has sent out information on the use of Crown lands. Manitoba Centre for Health Policy provided information on personal care homes. Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation provided information on a conservation agreement that they are entering into with the estate of a person that was on Southwest 1718. It's a lot of information, but basically it is just our information. We have no authority over this. We will make note of it going forward in our records just to ensure that, nobody would come to us expecting to build and us inadvertently provide a permit for that. Manitoba Infrastructure has provided some information on illumination warrants and the possibility, if the municipality was interested, at Highway 2 and the road into Carroll. Manitoba Infrastructure provided us with the Certificate of Safety rating. Manitoba Liberal Caucus, and I don't often put in information from other political bodies, especially when they're in opposition, but both of these this time happen to deal with investing in the Canada plan as well as the EPTCA changes, so probably relevant to be aware of what's being said. Manitoba Municipal Relations gave us some information on the 2019 assessment levy. Manitoba Water Services Board has given their conditional acceptance for a tender on well number 4. Manitoba Infrastructure, or Minister of the Infrastructure, has provided information on the Traffic and Transportation Modernization Act. Minister of Municipal Relations has given us information on their municipal grant. And I think that outlined what the new amounts were, and we'll get to that a little bit more in the budget discussions. Municipal Advocacy Solutions was providing some information related to Bill C-69 and some advocating that they are doing. Prairie Mountain Health gave us their March 2019 newsletter. Provincial Municipal Support Services provided information on Bill number 25, the Municipal Amendment Act. I would also note that this is an amendment dealing with the tax tools that are available to municipalities. They've strengthened it in the way that if there's going to be a really large increase in any one municipality because of a reassessment, they are going to put in the requirement that the CAO or the administration would prepare a report to let council know its options with dealing with that. One thing that is not in it is any change in their stance on differential taxation. Still not included, so as far as I know, still not doable once we're finished this term. Rural and Northern Economic Development gave us information on the First Nation Municipal Collaboration Program. Rural Policy Learning Commons is their March 2019 publication. St. Paul's Church has sent in correspondence with the suggestion that the sidewalks in front of the church could be repaired or replaced, and that is something the council could make a determination on. There is money in the proposed budget for sidewalks in Wawanesa, so that could be one of the areas that's looked at. Southwest Horizon School Division gave some information on the provincial K-12 education review. Following their presentation to council a meeting or two ago, we did put all of that information up on our website. If council would like to do a letter of support or whatever, I would need your direction to do so. And Way to Go Consulting is providing us with a means to help with doing DFA claims, but I believe the current system that we have in place, Darcy, is working fairly well with doing DFA claims. And that is it.
All right. Be it resolved that the above noted communications be received. Somebody please move that. Seconder, Councilor Hargreaves. Discussion if any. Before you do that, Councilor, I'm going to mention the Southwest Horizon thing. We should come up with a plan whether we're going to send a letter to our supporters or not and make it official. That's a good idea. So, you want to have a resolution in there, or you want to do it in new business, or?
We could do the resolution here. It falls under, as a result of the communication, I can put it under here.
Does anybody want to make a resolution or make a motion that we send a letter of support for our local school division?
I make a motion that we do not.
Do not?
Do not.
Okay, in which case I won't put a motion forward. I don't need a motion to do nothing.
Yeah, we'll just, if that's what the meeting is, Councilor Vidal.
I personally think, Mr. Chairman, we should send letters of support myself.
It's,
I just don't want it to be all controlled by the city and then all of a sudden note here, you know, our mill rate's gonna go way up and our, money and the money's gonna be, that our school division has is going to be spent in this area, otherwise it's gonna be controlled by the city. That's my concern with that.
I personally just don't think we should be in between the province and that. That's my opinion.
Councilors.
My thought is that we've published the information that they wanted to, and I definitely share some of the same concerns, Bob, but I think that we run the risk of putting ourselves opposed to certain ratepayers by opposing change. So that makes me a little bit uncomfortable with taking a position, because I think that the way that taxes are funded, or schools are funded, will be part of this, and I think that it could end up looking like we are against some of those changes, and I'm not sure if we are. So just without knowing what's going to come of this, I completely agree. I don't want to see local school boards go. I don't want to see that taxation level taken away, but I'm uncomfortable with taking a full position on it without knowing exactly where it's going.
I agree with Councilor McGregor as well, that we need more information to determine exactly which direction we should be going in. I do believe we should be supporting their boards at a local level as well, but to what extent and to what part do we play in being an intermediary as to do we support the province or do we support local boards? So I think without more information, we need to know what direction we're going to. Yeah. No, go ahead.
If we were going to write a letter, I think there's a way to word it carefully to alleviate those concerns, but I just don't want to see us take too broad a position on it.
And again, if Councilor McDonald, you feel that you want a letter, you can make that motion here, and then we can go through that process or not, depending on what you feel. It is a situation that I agree both sides. I'm concerned about it because of the fact that, and I'll give you this from one of the people I've been doing a lot of, I guess, networking with other mayors and councillors at a couple of the sessions. One of the concerns is that this review may do something to reduce the property tax of the school tax on farmers. And if we say we support it at this level, and then the farmers don't get that, or don't have that option, and then they're going to look at us and say, why were you guys agreeing to that? You didn't sign with us. So I see that side, and I think we have to be aware of it as a council. But again, that's a council decision. That's not just my decision. That's what I heard out there. I don't know what's in that review, but it's one to be careful of.
I just don't think we have seen the province's side of it. I just don't think it's very good. The information we have is, I find, is very one-sided, and it's not. We don't see both sides of it. And I just think that we should stay neutral.
So, Councilor Donald, wish to make a motion? If not, we'll move on. So.
I would like to see, Mr. Chairman, a letter like Brad's talking with some of the, our concerns down there possibly, but I don't think we should just sit back and say nothing. That's my thought.
Well, as I say, if you wish to make a motion, make it, and we'll deal with it and go forward.
Well, I'll make a motion that we write a letter of support, or a letter with our concerns, or listed on, I guess will be the word.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
Is it allowed to suggest an amendment?
Yeah, only if we have a seconder. Right.
We would need a seconder, and what I was going to suggest was perhaps instead of using the letter of support that they included in the package, perhaps it could be something more along the lines that a letter be sent indicating our council believes wholly in the education of the students in the municipality in the best possible way. That doesn't take a side one way or the other, just let you know that we are kind of aware of the situation and want the best possible outcome for students.
Did you want to reword that motion that way, Councillor Don?
Sure.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor
I'll
Moore.
second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to see it be a letter drafted and brought back to council for review, would be my suggestion of the amendment. So that we've got another opportunity to consider this and consider the wording.
Table motion.
Tabling doesn't give me direction to do anything, so how do I say that a letter be drafted to the Minister of Education indicating the municipality's support for the best education possible for all students in Manitoba, for review by council prior to sending.
Are you okay with that amendment, Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just one other down for the next one. Are we done with that one, or are we on to another question?
Another one down, you're talking,
Just about the St. Paul's Church sidewalk.
oh, yes. I think we can get into that in the budget, because of the fact that there is funds there within the budget for that if it's
Okay, well,
passed.
then I just read it, just who was going to ask.
Yeah, we have sidewalks and everything built into our budget, so that's a budget thing.
Or possibly to review, Darcy to review with them, and maybe if they want to take it out, why put the money into a sidewalk? Like I'm saying, I have no idea what the reading the letter, so.
Yeah. Councilor McGregor?
Just a question on the correspondence from MIT on the illumination warrant at Carroll. Is that, how do we make that decision? Is that something that we pursue? What does that cost? They're willing to put up $1,000?
It's
It's-
$1,000, 50/50.
It's a 50/50 cost share on an annual basis. There is some substantial lighting there right now as a result of a home industry on that corner. So I'm not sure that additional highway lighting as such may be required. That was some of the conversation in the office when we asked around.
Mr. Chairman, can I just give my thought on that? That road is under construction this year, that's why probably this came about. But if, that's no different than the road going out on Nisbet here to number 2 or any of them there. The higher traffic areas are for sure, I think, but something like that one, I don't know if it weren't one there, my personal.
Maybe worthwhile to travel down there at night sometime, take a look, we can always revisit that. But I asked a couple people from the Carroll area, and they didn't think it was a concern because of light coming from that business.
I personally, we work there all the time, I don't think it's a need, but
$30,000. Okay, anything further? No, I'll call vote. All in favor?
I think, yeah, it had just been received. Okay.
Mr. Hatches.
Yes.
So as you will know.
Okay, under the order of delegations, we have Mr. Craig Hatch. If you would like to come forward and present your information to council and what your request is.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
This is something that I didn't know about, and nobody in the area knew about. I went to do a subdivision on a quarter of land for property for myself, and I found that the RM owns a piece of road across the quarter section. And I was talking to Jody about it, and we did some searching, nobody could find it. There was an order in council from 120 years ago. So there's 5.38 acres across the quarter of 29,818 that the have to discuss, I guess, and decide what you'd like to do.
Yeah, this road was never built. Just, the market for it, but never built.
It's to get across the Spring Creek up there, back from 120 years ago, and I guess back then it was their only route of getting from Roundway to Brent.
Are you farming that, what you're talking about now? Is it farmable land or is it?
The north side of the creek is farmable, south side is pasture, yeah. It's all, it's.
So you wouldn't even know where the road is, or basically just understood?
No, it's not even.
It's not-
There's no
it's not-
road there.
Yeah, no, it's not, that's not trailer.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is just to grant that land over to,
Yes, the way I've got it worded, after we receive the presentation, if council is supportive, is be it resolved that the 5.3 acre parcel of land shown on a plan dated March 2nd, 1899, attached to an order in council dated July the 20th, 1900, be transferred to Blue Hill Ranches at the applicant's expense.
so is there anything further that, or concerns you have as far as?
No concerns. I guess it's been there for 120 years, and unless someone searched the title, you wouldn't know about it. It does show on the tax roll. Nobody in our area knew about it.
Yeah.
So, I'll get quotes from a lawyer, I guess, and just see what my costs are going to be.
Wouldn't think they'd be.
Well, having run into this once before where we didn't actually have what they call a meets and bounds description, and so that's where this parcel meets this parcel perpendicular to that corner, yada, yada, yada. That makes it a little bit easier in the eyes of the lawyers to be able to do the exact transfer. There is no meets and bounds description on this. It says that actually right in the transfer document. What he would have to do is see with the lawyer whether or not what we're proposing being the order in council, whether or not that is sufficient to be able to work from in order to transfer this directly into their name so that it no longer shows.
But we're prepared to work with you on it for sure. It just makes sense to.
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Well, if the process is going to get too costly and too difficult, we can just leave it as it's been for 120 years.
And we'll have an order in council anyway that's there, so.
It is there, and what it basically does was provided ownership of the property, accepting out that portion that would have been the road. So the accepting out is what we're trying to correct if we're able to make the transfer.
And is it only 66 feet too?
66 feet.
Yes,
Like, what's our normal now? I don't know.
99.
Yeah, like if we wanted to go, we couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it anyway.
No.
And there don't need no reason
No.
for a road either. Yeah. Okay, anything further?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. So be it resolved that the presentation by Craig Hatch with respect to the transfer of land in northeast quarter 29,818 WTM be received. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, second. Councilor Hargreaves. All in favor?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Sir?
Do we consider this again, or it's?
Well, right after.
Oh,
Right after.
yeah, I just had a question, like usually lawyers want some consideration, like do we need to say that there's a dollar or something, or, like certainly I don't want any money for it, but just usually lawyers want.
Well, if they
some
need
sort of
that,
consideration.
I think we just work with the client. If they come back, and Mr. Hatch comes back and says they need this, I think we can accommodate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were being as clear as possible that we don't want anything for it.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be,
We could put in here at a cost of $1, because you're right, they probably will ask for something.
so that'll be
At
the
around a six,
presentation. This is just the presentation
Yes,
you received,
yeah.
so. Councilor Miller.
Mr. Chair, just, I like that idea, like put the dollar in, and then it might save us something to do this again.
All in favor of receiving? Carried. Okay, be resolved that the section of road shown.
I've changed it a wee bit because it's.
Okay, be resolved that the 5.3 acre parcel of land shown on plan dated March 2nd, 1899, attached to an order in council dated July 20th, 1900, be transferred to Blue Hill Ranch Limited at a sale of $1 at the applicant's expense. Can someone please move that? Councilor Hargreaves, second Councilor Soya. All in favor? Carried.
Okay,
Right.
I will send you notification formally of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so, ward reports. Councillor Fowle has a written report. Councillor Soyak, you have a written report. Anything to add to it?
No.
Yes. Councillor Hargraves, you have a written report. Anything to add?
Just that I went to the weed supervisors meeting, and it was okay.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing I didn't know.
Nothing I really did, yeah, and our staff was on top of all the permitting already, so that was the part was new to me, and we were already in conflict, so that's good.
Okay. Councillor McDonald, you have a written report. Anything to add? Okay. Councillor McGregor, you have a written report. Anything to add to it?
No.
Okay. Written report, nothing to add. CAO's report, you have something to add to yours?
Your Worship, in my email this morning are letters of resignation from Councillors Rome and Fowle. They only become effective, they have to be in writing and given to the CAO. Aren't signed, but they are coming from their specific emails. I will take that to be their resignation in writing. And then the obligation for me is to make you aware at the next council meeting. I'm making you aware of that now. The other thing that you will need to be aware of is that because it is happening with less than 1 year left in the term, there will be a requirement to do a by-election.
More than 1 year.
Yes, well, okay, sorry, yes, more than one, yeah, we're not in that 12-month period. What the legislation says in that regard is that you do a by-election as soon as is practical. It will take nothing less than 8 weeks because you still have to go through publishing a notice for nominations and indicating where polls will be held, etc. And so I will work with council. I don't believe that trying to do this at the end of May or the early part of June is in anybody's best interest. I think farming is underway. If council wants to deal with it before the end of harvest, I would suggest maybe the time would be through July and August, if it's a little bit slower then. But of course, then you've got people off on vacation for summer vacation, etc.
And then we get into your period of absence.
Well, and my period of absence now, if that's granted and if council decides to hire Roger, Roger's more than capable of running a by-election, so that wouldn't be an issue.
What about mid-June? Would that be too much on the farming side?
Can I speak? I just think that we had a great turnout on our early, like our pre-election, and people come to the office, and I think we could probably maybe do that again, and
We
would alleviate some of the,
Concerned we'll get.
if people are, involved, or I guess not a change, but are interested in it, they'll vote, is what I thought.
And certainly, having advance voting or sealed envelope voting available in the office means that you're not concerned that election day is the only good day that you would be out in the fields. You would certainly have a period of time in which you could come into the office or whatever. So anyways, I could certainly send information out to you on what the timelines would be.
Yeah, I know we're here on farming and stuff, but I think we want to try and get this done as quickly as possible because, we're now going to finish the budget without 2 councillors. If we let this drag on, it's just going to be a problem. So I think the faster we can get these councillors replaced, the better it's going to be for this council and for the municipality.
And I think like Councillor Hargraves mentioned that if we do the sealed envelope vote again like we did last time, people have an opportunity as soon as they go by to vote or whatever. It's not limited to a certain day you can only do it. So.
And this will be by elections in 2 wards.
Yeah, 2 and 3.
Sorry, Jody, once people are nominated, how many weeks we have from election, or, like,
Nomination day to
yeah,
election
sorry,
day.
yeah.
I would have to go back and dig that out. I'm positive when I timed it out, when I was actually thinking of cannabis election, it was different. It was 90 days, but I'm pretty sure when I time out just a by-election, it's somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks, depending on where I can hit publications in newspapers. So being made aware of this in March, if we were to do it April, May, June, so in the latter half of June or mid-June, it should not be a problem to get it done.
Okay. You're good there?
Why don't we just say be held in mid-June? And that gives me the direction from you to do it.
Well, by mid-June, it's earliest.
In mid-June gives me a bit more flexibility because then second, third week.
Okay, so be it resolved that the by-election be held in wards 2 and 3 in mid-June. So please move that. Councillor McGregor, seconder. Councillor Floyd. Discussion, anything?
I was thinking more towards the end of June.
Okay,
That was my,
I could just put it in June and
Sure.
then, okay. If Councillors McGregor and Soyak are okay with that minor change? Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, is there anything else on your?
No, everything else is there.
Finance Officer Elaine, do you have anything to add? Okay. Public Works, Darcy, do you have anything to add to your written report?
The only thing I want to add is Drew called this morning and he's got another leak, so.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were saying you found the leak.
It's on Commercial Street.
Oh.
Well, we kind of knew with the cold winter that we had, that we
Yeah.
were going to run into problems.
Stuff was gonna happen.
So be it. Anything else, Darcy?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Fire Chief's report is in there?
Drew Wilkins.
Yeah, Drew's report's in. Written report, yeah. Vet board report, Councillor Call has,
I hadn't had anything provided with relation to the vet board.
Andy Transit, Councillor McDonald, anything to add to your? No? Okay, be it resolved that the verbal and written committee reports be received. Somebody please move that. Councillor Hargreaves, second by Councillor Soy. All in favor? Okay, Personnel and Policy Committee. Be it resolved that the Personnel and Policy Committee report be received. Everybody got a copy of that. Somebody please move that. Councillor Hargreaves. Seconder. Councillor McDonald. Discussion? All in favor? Be it resolved that effort has been made to recruit a volunteer emergency coordinator to fulfill the obligations as outlined in the Emergency Measures Act, whereby mileage and meeting costs shall be paid within approved budgets. Can somebody please move that? Councillor Hargreaves. Seconder? Councillor McDonald. All in favor?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
Do you mind, I might just speak to most of these, just to give a quick explanation if that
Okay,
is okay.
sure.
So we need to recruit an emergency coordinator. There is some thought of, setting a budget and having it as a paid position, but the initial strategy is going to see if there's somebody that would do this on a volunteer basis. So.
Okay. All in favor? Great. Be resolved that the grants policy be amended to focus on community organizations. If someone please move that. Councillor Hargreaves, seconder. Councillor Choi, did you want to speak to this one, Councillor McGregor?
Sure, yeah. This one is, in the past, there's been a lot of grants to charities outside the municipality. So the thought is that it maybe isn't our role to coordinate charitable giving for our ratepayers. So we want to change the focus to be more about organizations within the municipality, with a few exceptions for groups that still do have an impact, like maybe something like STARS.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that an 8-week leave of absence without pay be granted to the CAO to accommodate her obligations to the federal election, whereby any hours worked for the municipality during that leave will be reimbursed at her normal hourly rate. Somebody please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hargreaves, you want us to...
Sure, yeah, I think this one's fairly self-explanatory. Jolene does have an obligation to the federal election, which we know is out for quite some time. So the recommendation is to give her a 8-week leave of absence without pay, and then there was discussion that she may have some time in there to come in and help out, and if that was the case, that we would pay her at a regular hourly rate.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilor McDonald?
Mr. Chairman, so is Roger already has agreed to come and fill
Well,
in?
that's the next one down, so
Oh,
just
sorry.
move this one in order, okay? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so now you can go.
And I thank you.
And further be it resolved that Roger Bouvier be appointed as interim CAO for an 8-week period for 2 days per week at a rate of $65 an hour plus expenses. Can somebody please move that? Councillor Bear, seconder. Councillor Soya. Discussion. Councillor McDonald, did you want to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wondered, so Roger has agreed to come out?
I'm assuming the answer is yes, based on the way this is worded. At the committee meeting, we didn't know that, but I'm assuming.
Your Worship, this came about originally when I knew that there was this possibility of my contract extending. Originally, my contract was due to expire in December. If the municipality wasn't going to be able to accommodate me doing the federal election, I would have made sure to give my notice in ample time so that you could have had my position filled so that I could have effectively began work with the federal election September 1st. There has been some discussions about me continuing on, in which case at this point in time it's tough to then pull the plug on the federal election and get somebody else brought in. Initially I had been contemplating trying to use holiday time, still come out to the office 1 day, maybe 2 days a week. That would have to be really flexible because there are set times in the election cycle that I absolutely have to be in the election office. And in speaking with staff, they had wondered whether or not just actually taking a leave of absence unpaid, thereby freeing up what would be my salary to allow somebody such as Roger to come in for 2 days a week without it negatively impacting the municipality. I reached out to Roger and he said he would definitely be interested if council was prepared to have him. The area of greatest concern for me when I was away is that there will definitely be 2 council meetings to try to prepare for, take the meeting and do the follow-up. The other thing that is possible, it's a reassessment year next year. No one in our office and no one on this council has ever had to deal with a board of revision with the exception of me. And I wasn't entirely sure because that would hit in September. I wasn't sure about my ability to be able to do that. Again, Roger has all of those things well under control. So if council was interested, Roger would certainly make that available. He would do the same as he did last time. He would drive out one morning, stay overnight, work the next day, and then drive home.
Okay, further? All in favor? Here. Be it resolved that contract negotiations be entered into with the CAO, Jolene Smith-Nicky, for continuation of service upon the expiration of the current contract. Can I say please move that? Councillor Soya, second Councillor McDonald. Councillor McGarry, do you speak to this?
Sure, this was fairly self-explanatory, and Jody covered most of it. My only comment is that, I think we really need to do some serious thought about succession planning, as I have a feeling this might be the last contract that we are able to secure. So we just are going to want to think about what the future is for that position.
Great. All in favor? Great. Okay, Public Works and Transportation. Be it resolved that the Public Works and Transportation Service Committee report be received. Can somebody please move that? Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Hargreaves. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved, the head of council, Dave Crutchers, be appointed as chair of the Public Works and Transportation Service Committee. And somebody please move that. Councilor McDonald, second Councilor Suyak. Discussion? Councilor McGregor.
No, sir.
All in favor? Be it resolved that the rotational gravel spreading map be prepared based on 175 yards per mile on the heavy usage roads and an average of 100 yards per mile on the remaining roads. Can somebody please move that? Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor Kovac. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that a tender be prepared and advertised for the 2019 gravel crushing requirements subject to the 2019 budget approval. Can we please move that? Councilor Hargreaves, second by Councilor McDonald. All in favor? Be it resolved that a summer operations policy be prepared for consideration and adoption. Can somebody please move that? Mr. McGregor, seconder. Councilor Hargreaves. Discussion? All in favor? Be resolved that a dust control policy be prepared for consideration and adoption. Councilor Hargreaves moved it. Seconder, Councilor McGregor. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that a 5-year road rehabilitation plan be prepared for consideration and adoption. Somebody please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hargreaves. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Be it resolved that a surface and tile drainage policy be prepared for consideration and adoption. Can somebody please move that? Councilor Hargreaves, second by Councilor McGregor. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the approach policy be amended to include culvert drainage issues and application fees be amended accordingly. Sorry, please move that. Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor McDonald. All in favor? Okay. Since we have received the resignations of Councilors Rome and Powell, the motion to censure looks redundant, so I will leave that, or should I table it?
At this point in time, it could simply be withdrawn, and if at some point future...
I will withdraw this on basis. Whereas the municipal insurer has found no negligence on behalf of the municipality in regard to a water damage claim, therefore be it resolved that a request for compensation from Mr. Michael Walsh with respect to water damage in the basement at 128 5th Street, Wawanesa be denied. Can we please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Soya, discussion. Somebody's querying this, I think. Well, anyway, it was passed to our insurer and they've said that, so. All in favor? Carried. Request to move dirt pile. Be it resolved that the administration be requested to review the area this spring at the end of the Dyke Road in order to determine if minor alterations to the landscape can be completed to allow backyard access to the Jones property. Can somebody please move that? Councilor McGregor, seconder. Councilor McDonald. Councilor McGregor.
Just wanted to make sure we'll let them know this, because I think the last correspondence we had was that we consider at this meeting, so.
Yes, we will certainly follow up with Mrs. Jones, and Darcy, I think, will be in touch with her just to kind of see what can be done. The original request had been to move a pile of dirt. Upon further investigation, that pile of dirt turns out to be a portion of the dike. So we may be limited to some degree as to what we could do, but there might be the opportunity once the thaw hits to see if there is something that can be done to assist.
Okay. All in favor? The bylaws, proposal for subdivision. Councilor, Jody,
I could.
take this one.
I could. So we have received 2 subdivision applications today. The first one is for the northwest quarter of 18818. As per council's decision earlier, there is no longer a requirement to send out the courtesy hearings, and that change came about after having the manager of regional and community planning come out and explain to some degree perhaps why they have done away with it and why that was removed from the act. So this is one of the first ones we're receiving where we haven't had to do the circulation. Having said that, Community and Regional Planning still does their review. They still speak with any of their agencies and they still provide the recommendation to us. And so that is what we have based the recommendation on.
Okay, now this subdivision just dividing the home quarter?
It is taking, and I have to pull it up, it's about 7 acres, I think,
Yeah.
out for the yard site.
Yard site, I should say, yeah.
And in this case, I would mention a conditional use order will need to be applied for because they are going to have a non-farm dwelling in an ag zone. And in this case, there will also have to be a variation applied for because the residual amount of land remaining is less than the required 80 acres.
Okay, so be it resolved that subdivision application number 4157-19-8061 as submitted by Stephen Churwick and Jeffrey and Carol Walgamuth to subdivide northwest quarter 18-818 WPN be approved subject to a conditional use order being granted to allow for non-farm dwellings within the ag zone and a variation order being granted to reduce the minimum site area for the residual property from 80 acres to 73.96 acres. Can somebody please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. It's about again.
All right, the second subdivision is further to the delegation that was received this morning. It is for Blue Hills Ranch to be able to subdivide out a yard site where they intend to build a retirement home. You will note on this one that the only condition will be that the conditional use order be applied for. And the reason for that is that the residual amount of property is greater than the 80 acres, so they don't require a variation.
Okay, be it resolved that subdivision application number 4157-19-8065 as submitted by Blue Hill Ranches Limited to subdivide northeast quarter 29-818 WPN be approved subject to a conditional use order being granted to allow for non-farm dwellings within the ag zone. So please move that. Councilor McGregor, second by Councilor Hargraves. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, so request for compensation, whereas as a result of a water main break, a large degree of system flushing was required at 111 7th Street in Wawanesa. And whereas the water bill for the account at 111 7th Street went from $150 to $347 without any other indoor water leakage. Therefore, be it resolved that an amount of $197.64 be granted to the utility account for 111 7th Street. Somebody please move that. Councilor McGregor, seconder. Councilor McDonald. Discussion? Councilor McDonald?
Mr. Chairman, Darcy, is that, it's just are you aware of anything to add to this, or is it just?
So, sorry, Mr. Chair. So if they flush the main lines, how's that affecting his meter?
Well, something had to be done from inside the house then for the sewer line, or the water main, whatever the heck it was. There's something going on. There's no leakage in the house, but yet the meter was being spun by the water being flushed. So it's either a meter issue, which they found wasn't a meter issue, or it was from the flushing. Is that
Your
correct?
Worship, I could look towards Cheryl to see if there's anything that we have neglected to say, but I believe that was the essence of it, was that there was a large degree of water being sent through their system.
The initial problem was that they were having sewage backup, and a long time ago they had a plumber come in and snake the line, and he left the snake in the line, and it was causing more and more problems and recurring problems. And the last time that they had somebody there, they had them run the water continually to try and rectify the problem until they found it. And that's what caused the water usage.
Drew found it by camera, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay, sorry. So if, like, from the house out to the main sewer is the property owner, right? So if the snake was left in there, why is that our problem?
Well, it's on their sewer line. So, yeah, you're right, as far as, but the snake thing is in there, but,
So
so,
that's not our problem,
So,
right?
Councilman Bear?
sorry, it says this is as a result of the water main break, so I was assuming that, like, usually when there's a water main break, there's a lot of dirt that goes into the lines, so we see that on our street lots. That's what I assumed this was trying to flush the dirt out of the lines, but.
Well, I think there's a couple issues there, wasn't it, Cheryl?
I don't think they were affected by a water main break.
Oh, then that was my misunderstanding.
This is 111.7?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a recurring problem. It happens every other year, apparently.
Was that because of the snake situation?
I'm not sure of that.
And then being advised to flush, to keep, who told them to keep it in the water down, you know?
It was either Drew or the plumber that was there. They were both there, so.
Must be done.
Mr. Chairman, can we table this if Drew's hopefully at our next meeting, we can get details on?
Yeah.
I think it's a little confusing here for me, and I just think that, like Councilor Harder said, I think if it's, if it is from a sewer station, then I think we need some more information if we could.
Do you want to introduce the table motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll second it.
When you say, your second? Okay. All in favor of the table motion? Good. Okay, be it resolved that the request from Environment and Climate Change Canada dated March 1st, 2019 to decommission its gauging station well and shelter located on the dike behind the highway's maintenance compound yard in Wawanesa be approved. Somebody please move that. Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor Soya, discussion? This is on the river by the MIT shed. All in favor? Be it resolved that the application by Brad Klein to construct a berm on the property located at Southwest 9717W in accordance with the information provided by Assiniboine Hills Conservation District dated February 28, 2019 be approved. Somebody please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder, Councilor Hargreaves. Discussion? Darcy, there's nothing we have to be concerned about this?
No, all the surrounding landowners signed off on it, and it's a pretty straightforward project.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, approach application, be resolved that the approach permit application by Conrad Winter for the access approach for property located at Lot 3, Plan 56423 in the northeast quarter 36819 WPM be approved whereby in accordance with the existing development agreement, construction costs shall be at the expense of the municipality. Can I have somebody please move that? No movement. Councilor Hargreaves, second by Councilor Soya. Discussion?
I'm not familiar with this.
I think maybe we'll let Joni explain that.
Okay, going back to the development agreement for the original subdivision application, included in that development agreement was the requirement for the applicant to provide some money to the municipality that would be kept for use as continuing on with any of these access approaches as they came forward. It's been several years. We haven't had one up until now, but the development agreement definitely does state that it would be at our expense.
So it's, when, can you go back, and give us a date as to when this was first done? You know?
36.
That's up,
It's on here, November 27th, 2013.
Okay.
prior to amalgamation.
Hold on,
Oh, that's right.
I didn't have time to look at it.
What's up here? Yeah, it's off the Darren Martin's land
Yes.
up in the hills. So it's done in 2013. Supposedly in 2013, money was paid to the municipality to be held and used in construction of this. I don't think you can find very much on that, could you?
I can't find a ton. There's There's notes on the file that indicates that they'd had discussions with them. I don't know, of course, we're using two different systems from then until now, so the ability to go back and easily search 2013 isn't there. We're going by the information that's included on the file and on the development agreement itself.
Do we know how much, what has to be done here, Darcy, about length of approach?
3 approaches, yeah, there's nothing defined, I guess,
Is
per
it,
se.
we can do it all in-house,
Yeah.
all ourselves?
All the approaches.
We have culverts already that we can put in?
Pardon?
We have culverts already that we can put in?
Yeah, got that,
And we'll use our own fill from somewhere.
yeah. Possibly from the site, or worst case scenario, we have to truck some in, but we'll have to take a better look when we, this spring.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that in accordance with the concerns expressed at the time of subdivision, consideration be given to reducing the speed limit at this location once municipal authority is in place. Somebody please move that. Councilor McGregor, seconder. Seconder. Councilor McDonald, discussion. Councilor McDonald?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just not familiar where this is and where, the speed limit on, like, where, is it on a?
We don't have a whole area map here.
I don't. When we take a look at it, and again, taking a look in the original file, it's on a curve, and there was some concern about having an access coming directly off the curve. It needs to be at that location just because of the way, is it the hydro lines and whatnot go in, that he needs to actually have the application on the curve.
Yeah.
And now with the new changes to the Transportation Act, where municipalities are being given the opportunity to set speed limits within their municipality, there would be the opportunity for us to review it and see if that is something that we wanted to consider.
Is this the road going through the hills by the slough?
Yeah.
Up over the
That's the
hills?
one, and all the lots are.
Yeah, okay, no, there's, okay.
Okay. Right, all in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa participate in the Southwestern Manitoba Working Group whereby related expenses shall be reimbursed with bylaw number 06-2018. Somebody please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor. I'll just give you a little bit of insight into this. This is that basically being referred to as the Southwest Caucus. It is basically all the municipalities within this corner that are getting together once a quarter, and it can be a councillor, it can be a mayor, reeve, head of council, whatever the case may be. And it's just to coordinate what we think is very important to our area that hasn't been getting a voice at AMM accordingly. We feel that we have to do something more, so we're working with our AMM district director, and at that point just designing better resolutions, and hopefully get our words in a little better to the ministers. Okay, anything further? No? All the vote, all in favor? Now, request for apology letter from head of council. Do you want to go through the whereas? Whereas council members received a letter from Brenda Buckley and Brian Giesbert, and head of council replied to the letter without consent of council. And whereas the head of council made comments to Brenda Buckley and Brian Giesbert in reference to past Oakland council that were disrespectful and do not represent the views of council, therefore be it resolved that council requests the head of council to post a letter of apology on the municipal website and municipal Facebook page. So we want to move that. It's not one of your motions, but anybody want to move it? Proceed. Will you move it? So, Mr. Dyer. Okay. Location of municipal office. Whereas council is considering a new office construction, therefore be it resolved when a design is approved, the new office will be located in Nesbitt. So you want to move that? You move it for it? You want to move that as well?
Now you have this one.
Okay. Okay, the next item is with the added on to the agenda in regard to the education property tax credit. Be it resolved that the administration be directed to provide a letter to affected property owners on the changes that result from the provincial government's change to the education property tax credit program based on the 2018 tax levy information. Can somebody please move that? Mr. McGregor, seconder. Councilor McDonald, discussion. Maybe we'll let Joni maybe give you an insight into it a bit.
I certainly could. As you've been aware, ever since we were made aware of the fact that this change was coming in, we've continued to provide updates to Council. It did become effective January the 1st. In taking a look at our list of approved people who received this credit, there are approximately 100 properties that are going to have a negative impact by this change. And there are 3 properties that we could easily determine would have a positive outcome by this change. What it is that the province had allowed a grant of up to $700 for residential properties, if it was your primary residential property, so long as you had education tax and/or a combination of education and municipal tax that was over the $700, except that at the time, the municipal portion of tax, you had to have at least a minimum of $250. They've removed that $250 requirement, but the other thing is that they are now basing it only on school tax. And there were a number of properties within this municipality that were receiving at least a portion of the grant because they were able to use their municipal taxes as part of that credit. In taking a look at kind of where it went, it was anywhere from a few dollars up to $300 difference. So it can be fairly substantial. As much as this is not the municipality's issue, I'm just wondering if Council would like me to send out a letter to those that I currently know to be the affected property owners to let them know what I see the impact being, and this is above any changes that might result from our own budget, but it might be wise for them to have the heads up that this was a provincial change, and as we can see it, this is how it's going to affect their tax credit.
Okay, anything further on that? Call for the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, draft budget?
Yes. I don't know if anybody wants to take a bit of a recess before we get into this for...
It has to do with the budget, the draft budget. So, you want to touch base on that?
why don't we put the receiving motion first, and then I can talk some more.
Okay, well, so limited, I think, it's a pretty short resolution. Okay, be it resolved that the 2019 draft budget be received. If somebody please move that. Don, second by Councilor Soya. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now.
Okay, so the draft document that you have in front of you is kind of the result of all of the conversations that have led up to this point, and working with some numbers that, at least initially, Council was feeling comfortable with. From this, what I have done was gone away and completed all of the schedules that would need to be done in order to turn this into the actual tax levy bylaw. And in doing so, had recognized that it comes to, and this will vary, but on a $200,000 assessed piece of property, Oakland would see an increase as it stands right now, and this is going to have to change, of 0.7. And Wawanesa currently sees an increase of 48%. Out of that, you will reduce the amount of dollars that would have been going in for their special levies. I think that takes it down to 28.3%. So I don't know how comfortable Council is with that. But the other thing that we do know is that we need to make some amendments to this based on information that was provided by the federal and provincial governments whereby they're giving us some additional funding. So I have prepared 4 amending motions that would at least take those things into account, and we could get that much done, and then any other suggestions or changes that council want to make, we will continue with amending motions from that point forward. What I have done is I have done them by line item so that they're easier to find on your color-coded sheets, and then by account number with a bit of a description as to what they are. As much as the federal and provincial grants, when they come to us as the municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa. It is not broke out. I have continued with the past process of doing 1/3 of it as being allocated to Wawanesa and 2/3 of it being allocated to Oakland. That just keeps it consistent with the grant amounts that are in there currently.
So, do you want to go through those resolutions then and get that added on for now?
I could.
And then we'll go from there. Keeping in mind, council, that if we're going to change anything now, it has to be by resolution until we get, it should hopefully today, we'll be finished with the draft so that Tony can proceed by getting the public hearing organized, and at that point we can move forward from it. The first reading will be done following the public hearing, and at that time, the second reading changes can be made. But got to keep in mind the taxes were increased, or we're using reserve money that wasn't already calculated into it, that we'll have to have another public hearing.
Correct.
So, Councilor Craig?
Just a question on process. Is there any way for us to go into committee of the whole for a little bit here? I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I've got some amendments that I wanted to propose, and it was just changes to the split between rural and Wawanesa, and I'm not feeling comfortable now because all of a sudden we've got 3 village and 2 rural. So I just wondered if there was any way to go into the committee of the whole so we could have more of a general discussion without putting forward formal resolutions. Is that possible?
We can certainly do that. You were talking committee of the whole, but still open.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do that before we even consider the resolutions that add in the...
I think we should do the resolutions, add in the funds first,
yeah.
and then we
Okay.
can move into that.
Absolutely.
There was quite a difference with the funding made by the federal and provincial governments we just received last week here at the MLS. So be it resolved that line 304, account 430-100-100, unconditional grants be amended to read $89,060.82 to account for additional funding from the province. Can you please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that line 305, account 430-100-101, unconditional grants be amended to read $44,530.41 to account for the additional funding from the province. Can somebody please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Solia. All in favor?
Sorry, what was that number again?
That's line 305.
Yeah.
$44,530.41.
What was the first one?
Yeah, sorry.
89,000,
Sorry, what number was that?
304,
304.
just above it,
89,000.
060 and 82 cents.
And 305.
44,530.41.
Okay.
89,060.82. Yes.
Okay, then after that, be resolved that line item 311, account 430-100-130, federal government gas tax be amended to read $121,266.66 to account for additional funding from the federal government. Can someone please move that? Councilor Hargreaves, second Councilor Soya. All in favor? Carried.
So that amount again, if you're keeping track, 121,266.66.
Okay, and then the final one, that's it?
312.
Yeah. Be it resolved, line 312, account 430-100-135, federal gas tax be amended to read $60,633.34 to account for additional funding from the federal government. Second, please move that. Councilor Plummer, second by Councilor Soya. All in favor? Okay.
So we have the 60,000.
$60,633.34.
Thank you.
And so before you go any further, what I should let you know is the additional funds that were coming from the provincial government. This is a bit of a reinstatement of their Manitoba Roads and Bridges program. They say that it will be sustainable funding for the next 5 years. And this year it was $37,000, and I anticipate it will stay at that same amount over the next 5 years. Does provide us with some stability, knowing that the funds are coming. It is unconditional. We can use it as we need to. And it is stackable with any other grants that we could receive. So we could use that as our municipal portion to apply for matching funds. On the other hand, the federal government allocation, it was a one-time top-up. It is doubling what their amount of their gas tax was. So one time this year, and that will be it. There is no...
Topping up, but
There
we'll
is
get the
no-
regular gas tax.
We would continue to get the regular gas tax amount, but we will not get double the amount, at least as it stands now.
Remembering that gas tax requires, we have to apply to them to use it. We can only use it for infrastructure and projects. We can't use it in general funds, so we have to apply for it. The unconditional grants, one of the things I learned, which I didn't know until we were at that seminar last week in Winnipeg, is that the FCM, the Federal Board of our municipalities, they have made it available to us that we can get, how do we look?
A grant?
Well, we can get money from them to do applications for federal funding.
They will actually do the funding.
They'll do the application for us, so we can apply for some federal funding for roads and bridges and that kind of stuff, or infrastructure of any course, including recreation. So we should be looking at that when we talk about the rink as we go forward to have FCM do some background work for us. So all in all, it was a great meeting yesterday.
It was. So now if
Okay.
Councillor McGregor wants to put forward a motion that we go to committee of the whole. And if there's a seconder for that.
Councilor McDonald.
And for anyone who isn't familiar with the idea of going into committee of the whole, it is still a committee. It is still open to the public. It is less formal than a council meeting. It allows for more informal discussion. When you decide you've had enough of that, you can come out of committee back to council and move resolutions.
All in favor of going to committee? Okay, so, Councilor McGregor, you want to start with that?
Okay, so lines 158 and 159. So this was our attempt to deal with the garbage, and the idea was to, for this year, move the Wawanesa dump into a split cost, at 80-20 split, and then work towards allowing next year to change how we charge garbage and recycling overall. So I'm just questioning the 80-20 split, Brad. I think that was your suggestion. And you know, just when I go to the dump, I see lots of rural people, and I'm just not sure that 80-20 is the right split, so I was going to propose a 70-30 split. When we look at the colony, for instance, that's a pretty big chunk of people that are using that waste transfer station, so just putting it out there for discussion. It's tough because you don't have measurements, right? We're just going off the best guess. So
I did a little bit of comparison, and this is just for review sakes only. Give you a couple of, just a calculation I did with regard to a couple of different scenarios of people living in the village and
Want me to send them over there?
just kind of show that a couple of discrepancies there. There's a sale property north of Wawanesa on 340. It is a 1,400 square foot house that is refinished in the upstairs with kitchen, etc. And it comes with 7 acres of land being sold for $170,000. It hasn't sold yet. But it's part of their advertising is that their municipal taxes are not municipal. Their property taxes are $1,100. That's total property and education. So that's the property I'm using in this example. That sale property of 7 acres. So their municipal tax is basically $816 a year. So we figured out that the garbage for them is $58.90. And you have Gene Corey, who's a retired farmer living in the village, and his is $317 for garbage a year. That's just kind of one example. I think what we have, what Councilor Hargreaves is talking about for next year, I think that's probably going to be what's accurate. It's taking a lot of farmland.
Well, I don't think farmland should be exempt, but it should be less than the household should.
Yeah. And I think we all agree with that.
What were you going to say, Brett?
No, it's fine, it's not really relevant.
So what was your thoughts then, Councilor?
Sorry, I proposed that we switch it to a 70-30 split, just to adjust it slightly. But like I said, I'm only feeling comfortable with this now. If Brett and Michelle are feeling comfortable, I don't want this to come off that the village is pushing through a bunch of changes now that there's only 2 little councilors. So it's a tough spot because we've lost the ability to have a good constructive discussion. So if that was how it was going to be perceived, I would rather just leave it alone for this year. And, you know, I think that Wawanesa is probably paying more than I think they should, but I don't think it's worth the fight if that's how it's going to get perceived. So.
Councilor McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, Brett, I fully agree, because I see that, you know, I agree with you completely, but I just think the way things are gone with the 2, I just don't want to get pointed. I think hopefully next year we can look at it and be for parcel or something. Because to me, a person on an acreage or a farm building on a farm, or whether it's Nesbitt or Carroll, Wawanesa creates the same amount of garbage rate, so it should be even the same amount. That's my thought, but I think this year is the best time to just leave it for now. I don't want to do it against it.
I guess I'll give you my opinion what I think we can do, because we got this increased funding from the provincial government and a basket funding. I would see us putting some money from the, not totally using this up, because I don't think that's the right thing to do either, but I could see us putting $50,000 in the unconditional grant into our roads for this year, into our road budget for rural. And that way reducing the taxation to the rural group. That's not a substantial reduction by no means, but it would be a reduction in their taxation. And at the same time, using some of that, because I think we should be looking at road projects going forward, and I think that's going to take a strategic plan that we're going to have to get together on, once we have 2 new councillors maybe. The other side of that is that I see the gas tax from the Wawanesa side to go for those 2 street resurfacing. That is an infrastructure plan that would reduce the level of the taxation instead of the 28% increase to level out probably closer to.
I think I had it down to about 17.
Down to 17% increase?
Yeah, that's still a hefty increase, but it's certainly better than the 48 or the 28.
It's probably still a reduction of about.
It's been quite a decrease too, don't forget that. Village had a decrease too last year. What's to say to increase 70%, like?
Well, and I brought my tax, because I think that's one of the things that we've been dealing with for a while. In 2014, the general municipal taxes for my property were $2,984. That's just the municipal levy. In 2017, it was $2,901. That's the tax thing. So it actually went down $83 from 2014 prior to amalgamation, 2017 into amalgamation. And last year, my Wawanesa tax only area, that's the Wawanesa portion only, went down. It went down about $250. So that was Wawanesa tax, and at the same time, when I take a look at the tax levies, the tax levy in Wawanesa went up last year, but because of all the lower valued houses, they took an increase last year rather than mine ended up being a decrease. So there hasn't been a drastic, like there's been some suggestion that Wawanesa has reduced by 50%, and that's not the case. But at the same time, they did go down because of the sharing of the fire department and administration, etc. That did go down.
And just before we continue discussion on that, the $50,000 that you were talking about for the road budget for Oakland, that was also going to be, it would have to be a project?
Not a project. That would come out of their basket funding provincial. That's the other line, the unallocated, unconditional grants.
We use a majority of the unallocated already to do our operating.
So there's 35 additional thousand.
There was 37,000 of which, if we split it out the way we've done, 2/3 of that would be Oakland and 1/3 of that would be Wawanesa.
But you're showing 89 compared to 64.
But
You showed 89 and 304 from
yes.
64 before, so there's 25,000.
Yeah, so that's
So 25.
that's 2/3 of the 37,000.
So we've used that whole increase for this year on our roads rather than 50, it's just 25.
Okay. That's all I was wanting to make sure, because of
Yeah.
course the other is already allocated in there. And unless you're doing it for a specific project, you can't use gas tax. So as it stands right now, 25,000 out of the new $37,000 funding would go to the road budget in Oakland. 40,000 would go to the road budget in Wawanesa, but that would be a special project coming out of the gas tax.
You see something else there, Councilor Harvey, that we can do?
No, I was trying to take it on. So we cannot take this gas tax and put it towards our, Oakland has $75,000 worth of road repairs.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot take gas tax out of it and put it just into that. Can we, or does it, we have to actually have a project?
You actually have to have a project, because included in that $75,000 budget will be, let's fix potholes, let's fix the normal operations, and that can't come out of
I was
gas
hoping that we
tax.
could take some of the gas tax and move to that one, was what I was hoping, but.
I was kind of hoping for the fire truck too, they wouldn't let us do that either.
And the other thing, and again, it's this council's decision obviously, but previous councils had been kind of earmarking the gas tax towards officer shop, which is why they have let it build to the degree that it has. This council obviously has the decision on whether or not that's the continued philosophy. If that was to be the case, I think when I did some numbers, if you used the top up this year and you used what we know will be our gas tax money next year, and I can't recall what my number was.
Like a 30,000 for like a 90.
Well,
We were 79,
yeah, it took it up to over the $800,000 mark, I believe,
759,817 total 2019.
and that's without the top up?
That's without the top up.
Okay, so then there was
So then
a
what was the top up then?
90,000, the amount of the top up?
Just about 91,000.
It's 90,000 something, 90,006.
90,900.
Okay,
I just forgot how much.
so it took it up over the $800,000 mark. If nothing is transferred out of it, is that the opportunity then to do an office and shop should the engineer report come back that our existing shop isn't usable? You could do the construction without any tax implications at all.
850,717 and change.
So again, just something to be thinking of, but this council gets...
Personally, I don't think we want to continue to put that gas tax money away. That's a lot of gas tax money that's already sitting there with no use right now. We've got a by-election now that's going to set back our building committee. We've got no firm plan to build anything right now, so to continue to put hundreds of thousands of dollars away every year when we've got that much money put away already, I don't think it makes sense. So I wouldn't dip into what's there, but my opinion would be to start spending some of the annual amount that comes in. Is there anything we can think of, Jody, that would qualify for an Oakland project?
And again, the Transportation Committee was going to come up with their 5-year road reconstruction plan.
Right.
I know off the top of our head there was notification or a notice that the work that had been done on the Green Acres Road had helped tremendously. There's still a strip of it that isn't improved. Whether or not council would want to go that direction, I think council would have to make a determination of what roads it is they want to reconstruct and in which order. And once that's determined, I mean, we can make the determination that this is going to go to road reconstruction projects. You can decide which project it is.
As long as we decide it's
Yes.
a Hayfield Road
Or it's something.
So like you mentioned, Darcy, about Tower Road, you want to fix some of the low spots there, right?
Yeah.
So if, like, say we had 6 or 7 roads that we had, like, can we do that and extract the money that way?
Yes, you can. It can't just be, let's put an extra load of gravel on it, because that is yearly operations. But it certainly can be, we need to dig out the washboard, and we actually need to reconstruct.
Oh, yeah, like you want to build it up, right? So,
So yes, so those are ones that you could name as a project that you could apply gas tax dollars to.
And we might get federal funding too from that.
Yes, because then once we have an actual plan in place, then we have the opportunity to apply for federal funding in the Investing in Canada program. Again, can't just be to lower your mill rate, can't just be to offset your yearly operations, but certainly could be for a project.
And we've been successful in getting dollars.
We have, yes.
I just don't want to come up with plans just so we can get that money. I want to try to make it so what matters or the fixing we plan on doing this year, try to make it so we can extract that money is what I would like to see. Instead of building up some roads that really whether it needs it or not, but like, never really not saving anybody.
Well, I guess I didn't have to ask, is there a project that we can put forward as a project and reduce the amount on the graveling or the maintenance side of things that would offset that?
Wasn't there
I'm not sure.
conversations regarding culvert replacements as well? I know that there's some culverts in the area. One was specified that was,
The box culvert,
yeah, the box culvert on the,
what would that cost be?
Roughly 30,000.
And was that in, but you're thinking using that in that 75 you got budgeted or no?
No, that was a separate, it was,
That-
really came with drainage.
Right now, we have 40,000 for those culverts and drainage on line 140.
Is that in there? Is that one in there? In that 40,000? So we might be able to use that.
Might be able to use that as a project that would be qualified or covered under gas
Frees
tax.
up that money? What would it?
It would freeze up 50, or free up 50% of it, right?
So what you do is just put that 30,000 from gas tax into revenue side, and that offset that expense.
And then whether you get the grant or not, if you get the grant, there's some additional revenue coming in. We haven't necessarily counted on it.
Yeah.
I would probably show it in the budget that it's coming, and if we don't get it, we were going to do the road repair anyway.
But doing this covered one out of the,
Yes.
gas
Gas
tax,
tax.
that's already there.
Okay, so that was line,
What road was that, Darcy, sorry?
what line was that?
Where is it, Lou?
That's
One
which is-
four
west, just
Hold
west.
on, yeah, there, yeah.
Oh, 40.
No,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
what line is that, sorry, I'm lost.
140?
140, yeah.
So we're gonna take 30 of that, or?
30, if that's going to be 30 for that, we can name it as a project to do that out of gas tax.
And then can we take something out of the road?
Well, I think that's one thing I already put into,
Okay, can I stop this for 1 second? So are we planning on using some of 2019's gas tax? Because
Yes.
like the 759,000 is including 2019's gas tax.
That's including including the original 90,900.
So are we leaving, like we did, Brett said you don't want to, like, I guess you'd have to minus 90,000 off that would be 670.
I'm suggesting spending
And
a good chunk of.
so you're saying
Maybe not every dollar, but
670,000 would be in the building fund.
So then what you're saying is you want to find a way to use $180,000 in projects.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, I'm saying a portion of $180,000. I'm not saying necessarily every dollar of 2019. I don't think we need to put 180,000 into a building reserve that has
At 20
600,000 in it, and we have no plan.
that 25,000 that you have there, that's supposed to come out of the conditional grants, not gas tax.
Right.
So it'd be 25,000 from grants for the roads to go to, applicable to the roads budget for rural, and what was that? And 30,000 from the gas tax for line 140, right?
So do you want to try to identify some road projects so that we could use the tax instead?
Well, only if it's in the budget already, because we got,
For sure, yeah.
like line 140 was a line item, so we can reduce that.
Okay, the road budget, I need a
It's line 134.
134. And that was the
That's a
25,000.
25,000 goes
Okay.
that from unconditional grants.
And the line item for the Wawanesa Road,
Sorry, I'm suggesting that instead of using the unconditional grants there, that we try to access the gas tax
You're gonna have to name a project. What kind of project you got there?
Well, I think that we've got ones that need reconstructed, right, so do we,
What are you reconstructing?
well, is it Tower Road, is it Capefield Road?
I don't think you're doing that this year, are you? Are you raising that road?
Power road we're going to this year, right? Yeah.
So, okay, so what's that gonna cost?
I have to calculate it precisely, depending on how much we raise it. I was thinking, just doing a shell cap right now. But if you're looking, because there's 3 spots there, so I have to measure it out precisely.
Yeah.
If you could guess.
Alright, so I need a better handle on this, so
Okay,
Are
so,
we-
Hold on, I
are
want
we
to find some
going
road
to
line
touch this
items.
unconditional? No.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we've got those
Okay, hold on.
unconditional grants. That is something that we got.
For Wawanesa.
Well, at least
I'm
one of that.
trying to find the line item for the Wawanesa Road
That would be,
reconstruction.
should be 45,000 in the yellow. Or
That's-
40,000.
116.
116.
116.
It's actually 40,000. Okay, good.
Okay, so as I've got it right now, and these are all still up for discussion, we're going to consider lines 158 and 159 as to whether or not that split is right or whether we leave it alone. We're going to consider line 140, using $30,000 of that culvert money to do the box culvert, and we would try to do that out of gas tax. Line 134, we would use $25,000 to do a road reconstruction, possibly Tower Road, from the provincial unconditional grant, so that would be the additional out of the $37,000. And line 116, we are looking at doing the $40,000 Wawanesa Road project out of gas tax. That's kind of where everybody thinks we are.
134, I'm thinking that we're using gas tax rather than additional grant.
Oh,
I don't, my problem with pulling money out of gas tax just for Wawanesa and not Oakland is then you're not contributing what you did to the building fund. That's my,
okay.
like, what we've been doing up till now. So I'd like it to be
So that'd be,
equal or whatever you want.
yeah. So it's 50, that'd be 55,000 from gas tax for rural and 40 for Wawanesa. Right?
As it stands right now.
As it stands with that.
And you're not touching the unconditional.
No, no, we got unconditional grants yet that we
Yeah, but what can we do with the unconditional? Like,
Anything.
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 Can we put it into a reserve for the
Yeah.
year? or-
Yes, you could.
Like, just because it's 1 year doesn't, I don't know if we should just be
The
paying down our.
the unconditional is not 1 year. The unconditional from the province is 5 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 37,000 for 5 years, so
The
certainly
federal was.
federal is the 1
I
year,
don't think we should be
dipping beyond that.
blowing the federal all 1 year if we can stretch over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Could we crush gravel with that unconditional?
We can, but again, you have to remember that if we lower the mill rate by this and we don't have the same thing next year, then we're raising it next year again.
Yeah, I don't-
and People
And
are
in
not
a-
going to be happy with that.
And in a reassessment year.
And a reassessment year. We don't know what's going to happen there, so we should be saving some money for that
Yeah.
just in case next year.
I agree.
I think this will essentially lower the tax rate in Oakland. Well, it's $55,000.
And 1 mil currently raises 144,
So you're
3.3.
0.3,
0.3,
0.4.
0.4 mil.
Yeah, so we can use the gas tax for projects, and then the unconditional, we could put it in the bank sort of thing for,
Well, we can leave it there and.
yeah.
Put it into a
could be-
reserve.
There could be some good projects next year for road widening.
Yeah,
The unconditional, it could be used for office or shop too.
anything.
Like if, like we didn't come up with a plan.
And we don't have to apply for it, it's given.
Yeah.
It is. The only thing we'll want to do is if you're thinking of a reserve that we don't currently have in place, we would need to do a bylaw to create that reserve.
General reserve.
Yeah, whether you did it a general reserve
So hypothetically, just say we didn't do any building or shop, we have to ask the province to get this money back out of that reserve, or this is the building reserve, it's just a tax.
That's the gas
sorry.
tax, so then we'd just do the application
I
process.
got you.
Wawanesa currently has a general reserve in the amount of $25,000. So what you could do if you wanted to with that $37,000, if you're not using it for anything, you could show that we're going to put Wawanesa's share into their general reserve, and you could put the other share into create an Oakland reserve, if that's what you want to do. The thing you do have to remember is that if you put it into a specific reserve right now and you decide not to use the money for that, then we have to get the minister's approval to withdraw. So it's either going to go into equipment reserve, it's going to go into something,
So can we create a general reserve then?
you can.
It's not.
No.
Is there difficulty in getting permission from the minister for a general?
Not for general.
No, we just pass a bylaw, so it would take
Okay.
two meetings. We would just note in here that we are putting it into a general reserve.
If we put 50,000 into the equipment reserve, and then next year we say, let's take that out and put it on roads,
Oh, I get it.
we'd have to get the
Yeah,
minister's approval for that.
that wasn't the original intent of
Right.
what they're.
So when a provincial government says they're gonna give us 37,000 over 5 years, what happens if there's a government change? Can that disappear?
Yes,
Not you, like,
yes,
Anything can happen with those
Yes.
guys.
yeah.
With
So
that,
I mean,
you're right.
as it stands right now, supposedly it's,
Not very many do that when it comes to municipalities. Like, I'd be surprised, but it's possible.
I would be surprised as well, only because they've gone to the length of reinstating a program that they had currently axed out. I take it that they've probably had a lot of requests for reinstatement, a lot of lobbying, that they've given that back.
So my perspective on this, just going back to where we started and my concern about the resignations and dealing with this is, I was going to propose discussion on garbage and rec. I think that if we can insert these gas tax dollars in the amounts that we're talking about, then I would just move on with life and we deal with this next year.
And I think that's what we basically just talked about, is about garbage, and Councillor Hargreaves should come up with a good plan for that for next year, but because it has a special levy situation with it, we can't do it till next year. So I think next year, this is the first budget for this council.
Going to put it out there that if we're going to do special levies, we're going to work on that over the summer so that we make sure we've got it in place, because it is a long process. If that's the direction council's going to give me after this is done, then I think it's something that we start working on so we know we've got it in place.
No, that time we should have 2 new councils, which will ease that. So this is where we're at. If we're going to do any more changes, let's discuss them now. Other than that, we'll go back into regular session, put this through as resolutions, and then at that point, we'll call the budget as a draft
Draft that I can
that we'll work
I'll
on
base my
for,
numbers.
okay, so I got the numbers right. We're putting 30,000, we're proposing 30,000 into the culvert
right,
out of
gas tax.
gas tax and
25,000
25,000 into road,
reconstruction,
yeah,
Our road,
and then,
gas tax,
yeah.
and then 40,000.
and the village.
So then basically, what the actual recommendation will be, once we get back into regular session, if you are okay with it, is, where is our revenue lines?
Can I make a recommendation? Or
Certainly.
can we put the federal money into the gas tax For the shop and office, or?
We could put it into the building fund, we put it
Building
in
fund?
the building reserve, you could do that, but.
Well, federal, which federal are we talking?
Unconditional
The
grant.
federal gas tax.
Oh, gas tax?
That's just leave it in gas tax and then
Yeah, like, we can't put it, yeah, like, you'll do under this.
Leave it in there, and then as we
Yeah,
identify
yeah,
the project, we
yeah,
can
that's
pull it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to figure out what my recommendation is here, because it will fall under the fiscal service transfer, because the money is going to come in, it's going to get allocated right into the gas tax reserve. So what we will be doing is transferring, so I'm thinking it's lines 233 and 234. I am thinking we are going to transfer, so let me just play with this for a minute. Not line 332, line 233. $990, $991. And transfer to capital.
Yeah, it's about 24 in the middle change.
Would we consider it capital when it's a specific project?
It's just not quite two. Guess that's such a big difference, with 22 million compared to 144.
I'm going to put it here. Oops, I'm doing something I didn't want to undo. Two, 33, 5, 90. Okay, so how much are we adding to the Oakland side? We are adding,
25
Probably.
25 and 30, isn't it?
so it's 55,000?
I'm sure it's 55.
Yeah.
Two different lines, so.
Yeah, but for me, where I have to make the change is the transfer from reserve, because the line items are actually going to remain with those dollars in it. It's how it's going to be
Yeah, it's fine.
funded. Okay, so Elaine, if you can tell me line 233. Oh, well, if we take 55,000 and we add 55 to it, it's 110. Is that what you guys get?
55 to 55. Yeah,
So the 110, and line 234,
go from 2,500 to 44,500.
which is 590. It's also 1991. Oakland-Wawanesa. And to read, and sorry, what title?
44,500.
Okay. So unless there is more under Committee of the Whole, if there's any other things that you are thinking you may want to do?
The only other one is a big item, but we've talked about changing the grants policy, so I don't know if we want to change our grant amount and decrease that a little bit. It's not big dollars, but.
It's not big dollars. I don't know just off the top of my head from the funds that we normally allocate for those coming in, how close we are to the 8,000. If we don't spend it all,
Yeah,
then we know
don't spend
better.
all of it.
It's not. So this is something, tomorrow is the deadline for the water surveys to come in. As it stands right now, I believe there were, without what came in today, I think there were 73 positive responses. That likely means moving ahead with the feasibility study. Originally, when we had talked about the feasibility study, the thought was the additional water source that was going to go to Wawanesa was going to come from the aquifer, and they were going to have to do the water study there, so it could have just been expanded to include both. Because they have found a water source within Wawanesa, they won't be doing that portion of it.
No,
You've
our
got-
water license is still for, the rural is still for other aquifer, the water license.
Yes. And so currently, there aren't dollars allocated in the budget. My own preference would be, I don't know that they'll get to doing the water study this year. Council's decision on this, my preference would be if they get to it, we show it simply as an unbudgeted amount. Because if we go forward with a local improvement program, the benefiting property owners actually make up or pay for that expense. So for me, I would prefer to see it stand out that it was an unbudgeted, and we're making sure that we're keeping track of that if the project goes forward. If you would rather put 12,500 in there somewhere to cover 50%, that's doable, but like I said, the way water services, the number of projects they've got on the go, I don't know that they'll get to this year.
Your recommendation?
Okay. Leave it that if they are able to get to it, we're going to show it as an unbudgeted amount, and, okay.
Elections, do we need to address that one?
Yeah, I guess so.
You shouldn't.
No. Probably not.
Yeah, anytime any off year, we leave enough money in an election budget, should we need to run a by-election, that we could do so. The only thing that's more costly with running 2 by-elections than one is I'm going to have to print a different set of ballots. They're not that expensive. I believe we could do it within the existing budget that's there.
Okay, sorry, can I have one question? In the correspondence, when they were talking about the changes to the municipal operating grant, there was reference to that they were including money for the rec commission that
Yes.
used to flow directly to them.
Yes.
Do we need to adjust for that?
Because the rec commission isn't our commission, which is the oddity for most municipalities, I'm thinking that we would show this as an in and out entry. We've received the money and we're just going to reissue the check exactly in that amount back out to the rec commission.
Okay. I think that was, we said we were going to talk about the sidewalks. Do we want to talk about that now?
Well, we got a budgeted item in there anyway for sidewalks.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, now
don't think
whether or not that is sufficient, I don't know what else you may have had in
Yeah.
mind for sidewalks.
Without knowing numbers or anything else. And again, we can look-
Those are not anyway, right? I mean, that's
I think we have to look at that overall anyway, and that's, There's some other issues, like as far as lining water lines and sewer lines that we should be looking at before we get too carried away with sidewalks, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that we have to do some strategic planning for that kind of stuff.
Council Road continues to publish information about the fire hydrants in Williamson, and we'll be paying for that without the corresponding information about retainers being made by people in the village. Is there something that anybody wants to change about that? And if not, can we find a way to get that information out to everybody so they better understand it?
We could do it in the public hearing,
Yeah.
if that, as far as the point to be made, if that can be part of the address to the people in the public hearing.
You just
As part of
brought it
my
up again on
presentation?
Twitter and,
Yours or
Facebook
mine?
post, and
Okay.
It's frustrating that full stories and told them that. So. I think that was the end of my stuff.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Hold on a moment. All right, so
Okay, so we'll go back into regular meeting.
then we would need a motion that we return to the committee of the whole committee adjourned to resume as
Since rules and resolution.
this is the one that will take us back into regular session.
Want to put it, be resolved?
Yep.
Be it resolved that the committee of the whole be adjourned to resume as a regular council meeting. Somebody please move that. Councilor McGregor. Seconder. Councilor McGregor. All in favor?
Should just note the time. So that is 11:10. So then, back into the budget. I think the only ones that we will need to,
Those two lines, right?
yes. So it'll be line 233.
So be it resolved that line 233, account number 590-990-991, transfer to capital Oakland be amended to read $110,000. Can we please move that? Mr. Hargrave, seconder. Mr. Soya. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that line item 234, being account number 590-990-991, transfer to capital Wawanesa be amended to read $44,500. Will somebody please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor McGregor, all in favor?
Okay, so I think that gives me the direction I need, and I will try very hard to plant these in and rerun the schedule so I can let you know kind of where things fell out. What I should tell you is that these aren't a tremendous number of changes for me to have to make, so I think I will go ahead and advertise in this Saturday's and next Saturday's papers that we could do the public hearing on April the 15th. And that would get the public hearing done. We have our regular council meeting on April the 16th, so depending whether or not you hear anything big and burning at the public hearing, if there isn't any changes that you wanted to make, we could go ahead and have first reading of our tax levy bylaw on April the 16th, and then we would have to hold a special hearing or a special council meeting in order to give it second and third readings, in order to get it in for May the 15th. Our council meeting is after that, so it would be a special meeting specifically for second and third readings. And I will remind you as we go along that if there are any changes that you want to make as a result of anything you hear at the public hearing as to when it may or may not cause us to have to redo another public hearing.
Do we need to change those other lines, or we just do the transfer to capital?
Just transfer to capital.
Yeah, the line I think stays the same. It's a case of where the funding is coming from. Okay.
So then, we've got that. Okay, so be it resolved that this regular meeting now adjourns to an in-camera meeting to discuss a financial matter as per subsection 152(3)(b)(3) of the Municipal Act and all matters discussed in camera are confidential until discussed in an open meeting as per section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act. So you please move that. Councillor McDonald, seconder. Councillor McGregor. All in favor? Carried. Now we're going to do these tenders.
Yep.
Okay, be it resolved that the bid of Fred Gilbert in the amount of $3.28
.328.
per load mile and 0.72 for loading for gravel hauling be accepted, subject to confirmation by April 5th, 2019, that weighing will be done via survey. Can we please move that? Councillor McGregor, seconder. Councillor Hargreaves. All in favor? Okay, be it resolved that the bid of Gravier Collect Gravel and the amount of $3.65 per yard for gravel crushing be accepted. Can I have somebody please move that? Councillor Hargreaves, second by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? Okay, so now we go to
There's no notice. Yeah.
be it resolved this meeting does now adjourn to meet again on Tuesday, April 16, 2019 at 9 a.m. at the Nesbitt Hall. Can somebody please move that? Councillor Hargreaves, second by Councillor Soyak. All in favor? Okay, we can meet.